If you want to build products people actually love, not just use, this episode is for you. We talk to Nesrine Changuel, who's shaped products at Spotify, Microsoft, and Google. She shares what she's learned about creating delight, including how small touches like emoji reactions and background blur became essential features during her time at Google Meet. We dive into her practical framework for emotional connection and why she thinks the future is all about business to human, even in B2B. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Product and Cake. We are again in the virtual recording studio with a fantastic guest and a fantastic co-host. Gonche, how are you today?
Hello, I'm really good. I'm really excited about the topic that we are going to touch on today. I can say I'm delighted to talk about this topic, and I'm really happy to have Nesrine on board today with us. How you doing, Nesrine?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
Nesrine has touched so many products that you might have heard about, worked with. I can name a few like Google, Spotify, Microsoft, and so many more. And she has also written a book about one of my favorite topics. And she's a speaker about this topic. And I cannot wait to dive deeper into this topic and learn more from her. But before we do that, Paul, I will hand it over to you. You are the best person to introduce this part.
Right, because it is still about people and not only about AI, right? And with people, you already want to start with a human connection. And that's why we start every episode with a good old check-in question. And Nesrine, I like to ask you first, which projects give you energy?
Okay, it can't be a better time to get this question. I'm getting most of my energy with finalizing the book I'm working on. So surprisingly, I can write up to 3 a.m. in the morning and I can't see the clock passing. So that's where I'm getting most of my energy these days.
Wow.
Wow, fantastic. Deep into the flow. What about you, Gonche?
There are many things that give me energy, but can baking be a project? Because baking usually calms me down, gives me energy, and then at the end of it, you have a sweet treat to try, which has a lot of sugar, gives literal energy.
If the name of your podcast is Product and Cake, I think that is absolutely counting.
True.
But you know what? I love baking. The problem is if it's successful, it gives a lot of energy. If it's a failure,
oh, that's true.
And it happens a lot that I fail, especially in the macaroons.
How about you, Paul? True. What projects give you energy?
Yeah, I would say for me, most energy I get currently from running. The winter season was so hard and cold, and now everything is green, everything is growing, and then running through the fields and forest and so on is so fantastic. And I really love this remote work style where you can just have a run for 30 minutes and then you are so refreshed in your next meeting. Fantastic. I really want to continue like that.
But now, Nesrine, let's dive in a little bit more into your experience. For those who don't know you, how would you explain your current work? What are you currently working on?
Explaining what it is to be a product manager is already hard. Explaining what it is to be a product coach is even harder. So it's not an easy start, but I at least try to explain. Most of my career, I've been a product manager, but since last year, I decided to quit my position as a product lead. And now my main role is around helping product teams and organization build better product, more human product, lovable product. So this is more or less what my mission is. What does it mean concretely? It means that I coach individual as well as teams. I also provide workshop and trainings, both on the organizational side, like industrial side, as well as academia, because I'm also teaching as part of MBA and business schools.
Fantastic. That is definitely a good cliffhanger to our AI section. I'm very curious to hear your takes on that one. But before that, can you quantify a little bit how you are working at the moment? Are you doing that as a freelancer, or are you working with a team of teachers, or what? How many people are you with? How many people are you involved on the day-to-day work?
So yes, I am as a freelancer. So I got myself onboarded on this new entrepreneurial aspect of working, which is completely different for someone who has always been babysitted by large organization. And you don't have to care about anything from an operational perspective, and suddenly you have to do everything yourself. But luckily, I'm not feeling like that much isolated or lonely, because the coaching aspect gives me this perspective of always being close to what's happening on the real field. So I do have one-on-one coaching with some of my coachee and client that I follow on a weekly basis. And the teaching side is something like I have a contract on the year where I actually work with the ESSEC MBA school here in Paris. And I'm actually acting as the career lab director. It means that it's not only about teaching, but also I'm mentoring the students. I'm trying to find global field projects for them. We're doing field trips as well. Like we've been to Munich 2 weeks ago and to London couple of weeks before in order to organize some company visits like Meta. We've been to Meta, we've been to Content Square, to Google, to Flix in Munich. So a lot of great product company who we had the privilege to visit and be hosted by their great locations. So what I love about what I'm doing nowadays, it's a variety of things that brings me, like every element brings a piece of joy and satisfaction that complement each other.
Nice. And I think one of the topics that I see, at least on LinkedIn, that you write a lot about, I've heard that you talking about it in different events, and now also the name of your book. Can you explain delight a little bit to us?
Okay. Very interesting. So yes, I talk a lot about product delight. I try to explain and demystify the concept of delight, because I think product managers talk a lot about the importance of delighting our users. And as soon as I start talking with them, I realize that they don't necessarily understand what it means, or at least there is no consensus around it. So I took this mission to evangelize and explain what it is. But before I even describe my own definition of product delight, I want to share with you the story how I came to become so vocal and so advocate for this mission. So the thing that I did not mention earlier is that in addition to my PM career, I always been and acted as a public speaker. This is something that actually I got initiated to it quite early in my career, because before becoming a PM, I've been a researcher. I did a PhD on signal processing and telecommunication. And as a PhD student and a researcher, one of the big element of our work is to, of course, come up with new idea and then travel the world to explain and talk about this new innovation in conferences, what we call research conferences. So I got chance to do a lot of those during my research time. And as soon as I moved away from research, because after spending 5 years of my career in research, I wanted to explore the other side, the concrete side, let's say, where the product really hit the users. So when I moved to PM, I quickly missed being like on stage and sharing ideas. So I think it took me just 2 or 3 years before I really get back quickly and running to the stage. And I spoke Actually, I spoke about so many different topics. I spoke about how to deliver product, how to discover new initiative, etc. But I remember one particular time where when conference organizer reached out to me and said, "Hey, Nesrine, you have been a product leader and product manager in so many successful companies and worked on so many successful products. Could you tell us if there is one common thing that as someone who've been from the inside that really contribute to the success of the product you've been working on?" And honestly, it's not a very easy question to answer immediately. So I sat down, I started thinking, what's really the common thing between Microsoft, Spotify, and Google? And I realized that actually, yes, there is one common thing. There is one thing that I get to work a lot on without giving it a name or particularly thinking about it, which is the importance of investing on emotional connection between users and the product. Meaning that we are not only here to build features and functionalities. We are also here as a product manager to create the best opportunity for user and product to fit and to meet each other, not only on the functional side, but also on the emotional side. Let me give you an example. Like if you listen to Spotify, you could listen to Spotify to get the music or to get the podcast. But sometimes I'm pretty sure you go to Spotify because you feel lonely or you want to change your mood or you want to feel more productive. And these are actually motivators. So to get to the definition, so first of all, that was the origin of realizing that, yes, there is something very big, very important for product manager to take care of and to get initiated to, which is the importance of emotional connection. Now I'm calling it delight again because delight, first, is a great name. Second, is a quite common term among product community. And I wanted it to be like something that could be easy to use. And since I left Google last year, I put my researcher hat again. And I started doing some research on what did the industry talk about regarding emotional connection? What are the most successful examples in terms of building emotional connection? And I even interviewed a lot of product leaders from different industries that are not necessarily mine, like from B2B and B2C and hardware and software, in order to get the consensus and build a model that could apply to everyone. So this is how I got to this idea of like owning this concept of product delight. And it's at the end of the day all about creating products that not only meet functional motivators, but also addresses emotional motivators.
I remember one of the Spotify's advertisement campaigns where they had big posters across the streets saying the Spotify algorithm is the only one who understands me. That was a very good one. I was laughing a lot about that.
Yeah.
That is very broad and I think easier said than done because our tastes are so different and maybe nothing you hear once and then you can just apply it. But it's fascinating how much research you put already into it and with how much experience you can combine it. So from your point of view, what's a misconception people have about product delight?
Actually, there are so many. The very first one, they think about delight as these sparkles or nice design or the aesthetic part, which is completely wrong. I'm not talking about delight from the aesthetic side. Sometimes you can even bring delight without even a designer. I'm not saying that design is not contributing to the delight. Of course, the best delightful feature will be a great combination. But the first mistake or misconception is delight is about these confettis, these Easter eggs, and these great small surprise. So in order to correct this mistake, again, the best and the deepest delight, because I sometimes differentiate between surface delight. The other day I have an Apple Watch and on my birthday, I got these balloons saying happy birthday, Nesrine. Of course, why not? I mean, it makes a bit smile, but this is a surface delight because it's all about emotional connection. There is no functionality. What I'm usually advocate about and writing a lot about is how can we create that deep delight that at the same time honor a functional need, but in an emotional way. And that's the big and sweet spot. The second misconception I would say is that they think that this is only a B2C thing. And in the B2B world, we don't care. And I feel so sorry about that because when we talk about emotion, actually there's no such a thing as B2B or B2C. I usually call it B2H, which is business to human. I mean, if they are real human at the end of the journey using your product, then they need their emotion to be honored, right? However, if you're building a product that will be used by AI or used by a robot, don't care about emotional connection in that case.
Yeah, maybe. But I love that point. Saying B2B, we don't need to care for the user interface or for the user experience or anything. Yeah, it's still humans using that software. Do you maybe have an example where you say, okay, that could work as a role model or something you discovered recently that made a very good job?
There are many examples actually. Some from my own, the one that I worked on particularly, and others that I've explored from while talking to users or talking to even leaders from different industry. So, of course, from the product I personally worked on, I used to be a PM at Google Meet. And the funny side, since we're talking about people here, I actually joined Google Meet exactly on the same period that COVID hit Europe. So it couldn't be a better time to join a new company, and couldn't be a better time to join Google Meet particularly, because I guess you can guess the change from in terms of usage, and it went skyrockets, and it was an interesting time, I would say, to join Google Meet. But as a product, yes.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during that time in your office, that just to look at the data, just to listen to what are the conversations happening. Oh my God, it must have been an amazing experience.
It is an amazing experience. It's actually a great period to learn from as well, because yes, there have been a lot of functional challenges, like from a usage perspective, from performance perspective. But let me be honest with you. As a product manager, what I spend most of my time doing, mostly like the first 3 or 4 months, which is somehow a bit surprising, is the fact that I spent most of this period trying to understand the emotional impact that this new behavior is having on our users. Meaning that we all moved from having meetings from in offices and clinics and classroom to 100% remote, like the entire day. And in addition to understand whether the platform can support that or not, the system can support that or not, we spent a lot of time, and I've been interviewing a lot of users trying to understand what's the emotional impact of this new behavior. And while listening to our users, we realized that people are talking a lot about, I want to feel more present. I want to feel more engaged. I want to protect my privacy. I want to feel heard. I mean, these are things that surfaced out of these conversations. And of course, we could have ignored those and focused on the fact that Google Meet works with the scale. But that was not the case. We had to write down all those insights from our users and build features that meet those new needs and these new emotional concerns. For example, we built background replace at that time. I mean, before that, we did not have even the possibility to blur our background. So this was a feature that came with these new concerns. People are concerned about protecting privacy. But the other feature I want to talk about is reaction. So we actually these emojis that you can send during meeting. That was a feature that we developed particularly for the fact that people felt unengaged sometime and low interaction with the fact that they don't feel part of the meeting, because comment is hard sometimes, and unmuting yourself to say that you agree or you don't agree is a bit invasive. So reaction came as a solution for those emotional perspectives. So these are some examples.
That is fantastic to hear, because when I joined mobile.de, I think they were using Zoom, and then a few months later, COVID kicked in and they switched completely to Google. And we were I was so sad, and were missing all the nice features Zoom had, right? Like emojis and stuff and blurred backgrounds, and a lot of things somehow felt complete. And
a meeting room underwater. We could rearrange ourselves in the underwater in a meeting room.
And then we were trapped in Google Meet. But after a while, maybe after the 3 or 4 months you spent on understand the emotional things behind, then it totally exploded. And today I would say it's first class online conferencing tool.
Exactly. And I remember the days that, exactly as you said, Paul, when we first switched to Google Meet, when we wanted to clap, we all started to use ASL clapping. So just shaking our hands. And then after a couple of weeks, the button was added to show the clapping emoji. It was really interesting. As a user, I loved it. And as a user, this is my official petition to ask Google Meet to add a lemon emoji to the list of emojis down there. We really, really need a lemon there, please.
Of course. I mean, that's funny because after releasing this set of emojis, we started receiving so many requests. Some of them very weird, like the lemon. Some requested the crab. And I was like, there's certainly a reason, like a personal reason why people are asking for a crab or for a lemon or for whatever. So yeah, it could be like a next iteration is similar to what the reason why Slack today is at least the reason why Slack turns out to be very successful is by giving this possibility of creating customizable emojis, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about personalization and allowing people to reflect themselves in a better way.
As you mentioned, Slack, just one side question very quick. Do you ever at your time at Microsoft was somehow in contact with Microsoft Teams team? Because I am forced to use Teams and my emotions with Teams are not positive, I would say. There are a lot of emotions, but
I'm gonna reveal some information now. But actually, when I joined Microsoft, I joined Skype more particularly, and I joined Skype. I call the real Skype. Sorry, I mean I'm so emotional to the real Skype, the Skype for consumer that everyone used on the early ages. And when I
we
joined,
all have the sound in our ears still.
what date is it today? Oh my God! Actually, in 2 days, Skype will ring for the very last time of its life. So Microsoft decided, sorry, I had to make this information. Anyway, so the Microsoft decided, of course, to close Skype. But just to go back to the story of Microsoft and Skype, when I joined Microsoft, I joined as a PM, video PM at Skype. And the thing that we developed during my days there was group video call. There was no group video call back then. Skype was extremely successful, probably one of the unique existing video conferencing call, very performant. However, there's been a lot of course, strategy around converting Skype into Skype for Business and then from Skype to Business to Teams. But actually, when I joined, it was called Link. I don't know if any one of you remember the word Link. So Link is the mother of Teams today. So Link and then Skype for Business, and from Skype to Business to Teams, as you know today. But the reason why I'm talking about that is because when I joined Skype, it was the original Skype. But then we worked a lot into how can we improve the Teams, that is called Teams platform today. And that's why Skype lost a little bit of innovation. And then, of course, came product like Messenger or Viber or WhatsApp, etc., that took on the market from Skype.
Yeah, I'm quite sad to hear Skype is not gonna ring anymore. It's an iconic sound. It's an emotional sound, at least for me, and it's part of delight as well. At least for me, that the even the tone made it was at the same time that it was the annoying phone tone that you're waiting in line, but it was a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more motivational that you're gonna soon talk to someone you love.
Yes.
And that sound was always beautiful to me. So it's sad to hear that it's gonna go, but that's such is life. But I want to go back a little bit again about you and the path that you're on at the moment and ask you, what's the biggest challenge you're tackling right now?
Okay, so I think we already gave some hints about that. So it's been a bit more than a year now that I decided, of course, to leave my product lead role as part of Google Chrome. So I used to be a product lead at Google Chrome in Paris here, and I decided to put my full focus on, of course, coaching, advising, and mentoring. But also the biggest challenge that I'm working on is, of course, consolidating all my knowledge into a book. So I'm writing Product Delight. Product Delight is maybe my storybook somehow. I'm calling it storybook because it's full of product stories, not only from my own, of course, but also from others that I'm very inspired by and that I interviewed as part of the process. The book is almost complete. That's what I can say. Maybe by the time you release this episode, it will be already published, but it's getting soon. And it's all about empowering organization and product lead to implement or adopt this mindset, because at the end of the day, it's a mental model, and I want people first and before everything else to think about not only building functional product but also integrate this connection with like emotional connection into it. And it's a how book, meaning that there is a model, there is a sort of framework that helps you go step by step into making it actionable. And that's actually one of the probably the third misconception that Paul was asking about, like around delight, where delight is just a buzzword, and my mission with this book is to make sure that it's much more than a buzzword. It is a model that can be adopted and it's actionable. So I'm putting most of my energy into making this model actionable in all industries and products.
And maybe in our times, it becomes even more important to double down on the emotional side of products, right? Because with this intelligent companion we all have in all apps and all devices and all applications nowadays, it's even more important to find that edge that differentiates products. So when writing the book, how was AI? Did you use AI for it? Did it support you? And how do you look at the AI development in product management in general?
Yes, I agree with you. It's even a more important time to talk about emotional connection because we're heading into a quite risky path, because I feel like people are relying so much on artificial intelligence with sometimes no check or no validation. I've been using, and I'm using, of course, AI for like creating, like consolidating content, etc., which is very helpful, and we need to admit that. However, we need to be extremely cautious to make sure that we are double checking, we are validating, we are reading and improving and making like enhancement to it. That's the big risk that I see. Like sometimes I ask question, of course, to AI tools and I get answers, and then as soon as I double check, I feel like the answers are completely wrong. So yes, these are helpful tools, but these are not necessarily still completely reliable, I would say. When it comes to the aspect of emotion, the risk that I can see is that we see a lot of roles not being so much used nowadays. And this is a risk because let me give you the example of writing a book. I could have, for example, edited my book through an AI tool, or I could have proof checked my tool with an AI tool. I could have also checked the permission of every content in the book through an AI tool. But what I did is actually I did both. In order to do an experiment, I used some AI tool and I get the feedback from the AI tool. And at the same time, I hired a permission editor. I hired an editor to get these and compare the two. And honestly, the results are completely different. Of course, the AI tool improved my language. Of course, it corrected my misspell. But in terms of the real human, let's say, editor gave me much more valuable feedback, meaning that this is not very clear. The reader can get lost here. Or, I mean, the feedback was much more human than the mechanical feedback that I get from AI tool. So I would say combining the two words still work very well, meaning that maybe the misspell can be corrected with the AI tool, but the meaning and the understanding and the connection can only happen with the human side.
I agree with that. But it also makes me a little bit sad because that does not mean that we can get rid of all of our work with AI. No, we have now the double amount of work because we need to have this human counterpart and the AI counterpart.
I don't think we double effort. We improve the quality by combining the two. Of course, you can still work only with the human, but humans are human and errors still happen with a human. So what I'm saying is that if you add to the human feedback the AI or the machine feedback, then you are just leveling it up, right?
And you, as a product coach, you see now a lot of teams and you visit a lot of companies and so on. What would you say is an overrated versus an underrated way AI is used in product management?
Yeah, that's interesting because everyone is trying in a way or another, and sometimes it's not really tried at the right place. So let me give you an example. Last week, I've been doing the light workshop in a very large organization, and I was giving a group exercise. So every couple of times we do a group exercise, and I ask people, of course, to identify the emotional motivators, the functional motivators. And there was only one team that took the decision to do the exercise mainly using AI. So they've been using ChatGPT to answer the questions. And there are other groups, of course, that decided to take that opportunity to reflect and brainstorm and come up with real motivators. For me, it was really interesting because I was able to get this free comparison between what would the human say and what would the machine say. And I honestly didn't like at all the answers of ChatGPT, especially when we are talking about emotional motivators. Like if I ask you, even if I ask you what motivates you on an emotional level, it's not very easy to come up with. So imagine that you're even asking a machine, like that's not applicable. So what I'm saying in this context, particularly some element, if they are functional, machine could be very useful. If they are emotional, machines are not yet ready, and probably we're not going to be ready very soon to that. So that brings me to, again, every product is honoring either a functional need, and that's easy to get AI help with, or it's honoring an emotional need, and that still require you looking at the user's eyes, check the emotion from the face, and translate that to opportunities.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think we need to balance the human interaction and the human aspect of it with what we can get from AI. There was a joke I read, I think on Reddit, that I wanted AI to, or machines, robots, etc., to do the dishes and clean the house while I write and do painting. But now they do the painting and I still am cleaning the house. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it, that what creative parts and what aspects of our emotional and humanness are we also outsourcing to AI and machine learning tools, rather than taking over those aspects and taking over creativity and just utilize AI or machines whenever they need it and we think they can assist us. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to comment on, and this is a great story that you mentioned regarding cleanings, etc. Because the other day I was actually interviewing product leader from Dyson. You know, Dyson, the vacuum cleaner company. That it happens that I have a Dyson vacuum cleaner and I love it. And I was asking Andy, hey Andy, like what happens? Why am I so proud of my vacuum cleaner? Why am I like so proud that every time I have guests, I'm super happy to get my vacuum cleaner and I'm showcasing it in the front on the entrance of my apartment. Anyway, and he shared with me a story that was really interesting. He actually told me they very rarely or almost never compare their vacuum cleaner or their robot to the competitor. They compare their products to how it would have been done better if it was done by a human being. So let me explain. If you hire someone to clean your house, you will probably ask that person to start with a certain room, or to clean in a certain order, or to clean in a certain way. And they actually get inspired, or at least, inspired by this concept of recommendation to add that ability to their robots. So now in the robot, you can, of course, give them recommendation, etc. And I feel like this is extremely interesting because when I spoke with Andy, I quickly realized that that's exactly what we did at Google Meet. We rarely compare Meet to Zoom or Teams or whatever. We compare Google Meet to how it would have been done better if we were all sitting together in the same room. What is missing from that opportunity? And by doing so, you upscale your product. You start to think about features that are much more human, and you humanize your product. And of course, you enhance that emotional connection with the product. So somehow a bit unrelated to your story, but somehow related as well, because that's an interesting part related to our topic.
Yeah, I fully agree. And also, I personally really like my Dyson, and it has a name, and so it's a really emotional relationship we have with each other.
I'm not up to that level of giving it a name, but I love it. This is something I'm gonna use for my stories for sure.
Yeah. and it's doing an amazing job. So I think that's part of it. And the futuristic look. So it doesn't necessarily looks like a vacuum cleaner. It looks like a rocket or like an engine of a rocket. So that also, I think, enhances the emotional connection that we have. So it's now time for our game. It's a game that we play at the end of each episode. It's a yay nay game. It's a rapid fire product dilemmas or controversial takes on product management. And I will say a statement, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not. If you agree, you say yay. And if you don't, you say nay. So are you ready?
Yes.
Alrighty. So the first one. The only metric for success of a product is defined as customer satisfaction.
Nay. I think customers, should I comment or just?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Customer satisfaction is extremely important. The nay is about the only. The product exists, of course, for the users, but exists for the business. If there's no business and customers are super happy and super satisfied, it will die anyway.
Yeah. I really love that you also mentioned this, especially when we talk a lot about, I think that's another probably misconception that people might have about product delight, that we forget the business aspect of it and we just do everything for the customer, just make them happy. But then it needs to be a balance there. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'm always saying in my talks, like, delight is not an excuse to come up with features that do not have any impact on the business. So make sure that any delightful feature do connect in a way or another to your business objective. So great that you're highlighting that.
Amazing. All right. Next one. A project is declared successful even though it launched late and over budget because it delivered value to users.
I want to say yay, because it happens so much in my career. Honestly, if I need to give you a ratio of how many really got shipped over budget and over time, I think it's by far the largest percentage. And they have been successful, like features like Wrapped or Discover Weekly, or even like background replace. Of course, they have been big success, but have we respected 100% the time and the budget? I can't say too much, but not necessarily true.
Yeah, I fully agree. I had the same experience. The product team focuses only on the most vocal customers and ignores those who are quietly churning.
Nay. Definitely no. If you are acquiring new users every time and after a few weeks they are churning, your curve will never, I think you will never get your product market fit. It's all about retention. Retention is I would say the North Star, because those that are happy and those that love your product are those who will speak more about your product, and they will be advocate and they will bring more users. So it's actually the other way around. Keep them happy so that they will bring more users to you.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom, and it is fantastic listening to you. And it's such a pity that we are coming already to an end, because I have so many more questions for all the awesome products you were worked on. But maybe just one more. If you could give every product tech person one reminder for this week, or let's say for next week, what would it be?
I will stick to my theme and my beloved area. If they have to do something this week, I would say try to think if at least they know the emotional motivators of their users. Do they even know them? Have they listed them? Because most times, every time I talk about this, people it trigger thoughts and they quickly realize that they don't at all have this list. So if you don't, try to figure out this list. It's going to really change the way how you implement features.
What a great spark to kick off this thinking and start with a list and maybe ask around. And then, of course, don't forget to buy the book of Nesrine and learn more about product delight. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate that you joined us. I learned so much. It was an amazing conversation. And where can people find you? And where can people find the book?
Yes, so they can find me on LinkedIn. That's very easy, of course. They can reach out. I'll be happy to answer. They can also reach out to me by email. I have my website, nesrinechanguel.com. There are plenty of material information about, there's even my email address. I think if people want to reach out, they can book a time if they want. That's even more interesting. And there is the landing page for the book as well that would describe everything about the book, where to buy it and what to find in it. It's all in my website, so I will I don't know if you're gonna feature the link as part of the episode. Maybe we can put the link so people can quickly find it.
Yes, we put the link, and if you as our listener is writing a lot of comments and give us good reviews on the podcast platforms, then we will invite Nesrine again to get more stories and more product inspiration here.
Thank you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and give feedback. Thank you and bye.
Bye.